What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I am Mel. Joining me as always is Ronnie, Big Smooth Hennigan. Smooth, what's happening, man?
Not a whole lot, Mel. Another weekend gone. Cannot believe we are at the end of January already.
Right.
Already,
What?
fam.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? But other than that, man, it's been cool. I'm just ready for, new month, new beginnings, man. Just ready to make it happen. So let's get it going, man. Let's get it going.
yeah. And not to mention, since you brought that up, it's the end of month of January. We are also in season three. Yes, we hit season three tonight. So we've been doing big things out here.
Yes, yes,
And while
yes.
we're doing big things, I'd like to bring back our guest from last episode, our Cleveland Sports Talk correspondent, Kenny Nichols. Kenny, what's happening, man?
Not too much, man. Just been watching some NBA basketball today. Saw Jokic tie the career high. Looked like he's just strolling in the park on a Sunday morning, right? This guy's effortless. No athleticism, just buckets.
Hey,
That's it.
you know what? Sometimes that's all that's needed because there were giants in the world of basketball when we were growing up. No talent, but they gonna get you buckets.
Mhm.
All right, before we get started, once again, we have to give a shout out to our friends over at Box Bands because they have a great product. Resistance is key. If you are a fighter, boxer, or just want to get in some type of shape, try Box Bands because that is a great product. And I'm swearing by it. I have not. I've lost some sleep because my body's still moving, but I have not. I've not felt any better. I don't know about you, Smooth, but I'm
Hey, to be
good.
honest, man, when I was talking about like posting earlier about like the slow twitch or the, like, different little muscles or whatever in my knee area and all that stuff, a lot of that woke back up because of that. You know, 'cause you figure if you're in a stance and you're trying to punch and you're twisting, you got that resistance on there, your knee is slightly bent, so you got to be able to flex that thigh and not to make that happen. And a lot of it started waking up because of that and some other things I was doing. So, shout out to box fans,
Right. Okay. First topic we are gonna talk about is uh we all saw it. Me, Kenny, Ronnie, we all saw it because I know, Kenny. If I'm not mistaken, it was either you or somebody else was the first one to throw up the trade, and that trade that we're talking about was the Lions trading Matthew Stafford to the Rams for Jared Goff and two first round picks. Somebody, please make this make sense.
man. Oh my God. So I will say this, man. I was literally in a different event going on, because everybody doing the whole Zoom thing and all of that. So I'm sitting there, we're chilling, and all of a sudden it pops me on my phone. I'm like, am I reading that right? I thought it was clickbait. I thought it was clickbait. I mean, I'm looking at this thing, I'm thinking, okay, like you said, two first round picks and Jared Goff. I'm like, I don't know if I would have done two. I don't know if I even would have threw a first round in there. I think you may have had to just so I can appease them giving up Stafford, but two of them, that kind of lost me. So I'm sitting here now thinking to myself, okay, they claim that there's a way that they structured it to how it's supposed to be like some kind of NBA type of deal, how they're moving some guys around, stuff like that, which I'm kind of waiting to see what else they do with it. The trade is final, obviously, but I'm trying to see what else they're going to do within their own wheelhouse to kind of make this make sense. But right now, it doesn't. For them to say they're going to trade Stafford before the Super Bowl, I'm like, okay, well, why are you so quick to want to get him out there? But I get it. At the same time, I believe they said it's what 46 million or something like that guaranteed that they have to pick up in this trade as well for golf. So I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see how it does play out. I feel like Stafford, for years since he lost Megatron to retirement, hasn't really had any true weapons put around him to solidify that climb that he was having with him on the team, and not having a solid offensive line either throughout those years too. I mean, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what he does with the Rams, man. I'm kind of excited for Stafford. As far as golf, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I mean, like I told you before, I'm not a huge fan of him. At the same time, though, but him in Detroit, we'll kind of see what happens with that. I don't know, man. It don't make sense to me at all. It doesn't. But what about you, King,
Lions win big. That's the easiest way to put it. Getting rid of Matthew Stafford, the relationship didn't work. They could never put enough talent around him to really do anything, and the Lions have really had some trouble with that, right? You think Barry Sanders, the best player in franchise history, retires
man?
at the height of his career. Calvin Johnson, there's the other one, retires at the height of his career. And Matthew Stafford's might be the third best player in franchise history, and they couldn't do anything with him. They never put a defense on the field with him. They never put a running back with him. No receivers outside of Megatron, except for maybe this year with Galladay and Marvin Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Rams, they're all in. Stafford gets the biggest upgrade he's ever had with McVay, right? He's going from guys like Matt Patricia and Jim Bob Cooter to Sean McVay, genius like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be huge for him. Definitely excited to see him in LA with McVay. The only way I can make sense of all the picks is the Rams haven't even made a first-round pick since they took Goff.
That's true.
With that, I think they traded up and got rid of one in that deal.
Mm-hmm.
They traded for Brandon Cooks at one point. That cost them a one, and then most recently was Jalen Ramsey. That's going to cost them another one.
Yeah,
which is why they didn't have one this year. But they've managed to find guys late in rounds like John Johnson. I know they had one draft that was great. It was actually not having a first round pick. They got Gerald Everett, good tight end, Cooper Kupp, great receiver, John Johnson, Josh Reynolds, right? Those are a bunch of their core players. So they can find guys, but it's clear that they don't value first round picks at all, right? They don't really care.
I agree with you guys on this one. And to be honest, I think that the Rams saw that their playoff door or championship door is closing very fast. That's the only thing I could think of, because you don't give up a first round quarterback that you drafted personally for, in essence, an old guy. Don't get me wrong. Stafford's a great quarterback when he's healthy. Even when he ain't healthy, he still knows how to get the ball out. He's been the best quarterback in I'd say in the NFC for a while, outside of Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. Now, do I agree with why they made this trade? I do, but I don't think they should have had to give up so much.
Yeah, true.
And because they're giving up so much, I think that however long they try and hold on to Stafford, whenever Stafford's time is up, that's it until the next class of QBs or whatever comes out. And, I just feel like, this could pay off. And then again, this could backfire because, who's to say, the Rams will be good 2 years after this with Stafford, because they still have to keep core pieces around him, and all of those pieces cost money.
Yeah.
It's not like you're holding on to, dare I say, Jeff Saturday, who was arguably the best center Peyton Manning ever had.
True.
And you still gotta keep your receivers, keep the linebackers, keep the defense intact. Because the defense wasn't bad. It was the offense that was the Achilles heel in the playoffs. So let's keep that in mind as well. I'm just at a part in this conversation and in this trade where I need to know what's gonna benefit Stafford in the long run. because you know we all know, like Glenn is saying on the comments, Rams do like to roll the dice. So who's to say they won't roll the dice again and get rid of it? I don't know, but I feel like this was the Rams telling the league if something's going on next year, they're not gonna like it because it's about to be
Yep.
a storm coming.
You know, it's funny because now that we're talking about it, like you said too, the Rams definitely, come out on top with this deal. I feel like for them, they do like to roll the dice. We have seen them find like good talent, like you said, Kenny, in some of the lower rounds as well. Because you figure Cooper Cup was a third round pick in 2017, and obviously he's playing way above that level, right? So with him, and some of the other guys they brought in, you saw what they did when they let Gurley walk away. So they're like have their pieces for how long they have them for, and it's like, well, if we know this isn't going to work out, then we're going to make that move. And how we got to make that move is how we're going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's what they did. They made that statement of we got our little game plan. What we're trying to do. This is how we're going to do it. If we have to unload, we unload. But like to Glenn's point that he's putting up here in the comments, which is great. They do roll that dice, and it's been working for them. They've never since then have fallen to being one of those teams that's like at a 4-12 or 3-13, nothing like that. They've always been around like a 7-8 win, 9 win, unless they propel and get a few more, and they're in the playoffs, potentially every year. So, it's working for them. They can do that. With Detroit, it's like, okay, you have Goff, right? Goff is younger. You have a couple of first round picks that you'll be getting. You know what I mean? And the thing is, with that, okay, do you know who you want to go for? Is there somebody potentially that you see in the draft right now? Are they going to say, okay, we trade up for some guys? Like they kind of have a little bit more mobility there at the GM position to make something happen. I don't know if they'll be able to do it or not. We've seen obviously they've made some good picks previously with like when we talked about Megatron, that was kind of like a diamond in the rough type of situation because with him going to Georgia Tech, they ran the option. He was a freak of an athlete. They knew that in high school. When it came to college, it's like he didn't get a chance to showcase as much as he did in the NFL. So you took that gamble and go, okay, here's a guy we know who could potentially get there. Will it happen? Will it not? And he did for them, right? So I'm hoping they maybe see that again. Who knows? Maybe they somehow swing and get someone like a Devontae. Not Devontae. What's the dude? The wide receiver from Alabama.
I think you mean Harris, Devontae Harris, or something like that.
Yeah, Devontae Harris. Yeah, so maybe they make a play for someone like that. You know what I mean? There's so many things they could be doing with regards to what they're going to put around these different pieces. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. I feel like there's a lot of moves they can make, obviously, but I still feel like the Rams did win in this particular trade. So we'll see what happens and how it develops. But I don't know, man. Time will tell. Time will tell.
I think to add on to that, I think you can see why both sides did make the trade. The Rams definitely get an instant upgrade. There's no question that Stafford's better than Goff at this point. Goff has one huge weakness that the whole league seems to know by now, right? You get pressure up the middle, he folds like a cheap suit. That's kind of it. Saw that in the Super Bowl. It happens time and time again. With Stafford, you get a whole new beast, right? The guy's willing to do whatever it takes to win. He'll step into hits, be super durable, play through injuries. I know he's playing through a cracked rib for a lot of the season there towards the end. Yep. And one thing I wanted to highlight is that a lot of people don't know how really good Stafford is, right? So he, in 2016, and of course, that is a few years ago, but he hasn't regressed at all since then. In 2016, the Lions won 9 games. Stafford had 8 game-winning drives. He won them 8 of their 9 games that year. Without Stafford, that team's terrible, right?
Yeah, true.
He was keeping them from being a bottom feeder. The Lions had to move on. Stafford needs a fresh start. He's going to get that with the Rams, and they're going to be a legit Super Bowl contender. Lots of star power there. They need to try and help give him some more weapons around him. I know that they still need some help on the offensive side of the ball outside of just quarterback. Good for them, though, because there's a whole heck of a lot of receivers in this draft, so they should have some fun with it. Meanwhile,
Well,
the Lions get a massive rebuild underway, right? Lots of picks and a new coach.
man, the Lions been rebuilding since Barry retired. Let's just look at just look at reality.
They've been doing more
Lions
than the
been
Browns
rebuilt.
rebuild.
Right, Lions been rebuilding since Barry left, and I hate to say it like that, but to me, it's the reality. And the reality is, Lions haven't been to the playoffs very often, if ever, in 20 years that I can remember. Before that, they had only been to the playoffs twice with Barry, and this was one of those situations, Barry, Megatron, Stafford, where you got these guys giving everything they got, and you do nothing to help them. And I don't think that's fair to said players because, like both of you guys said, Megatron, diamond in the rough. Never saw that coming. Barry, you knew what Barry was at Oklahoma State, and you got lucky. And with Stafford, Stafford was, I feel like, was the right place, right time guy. And you gave him Megatron, but you didn't give him a running back, but they made it work. And then, you forced Megatron into a situation where it was either him or the team, and he chose himself. Can't be mad at that by any means. But I think this is more on the Lions organization as far as what are you guys going to wake up and realize you get these players who will do anything to help your team win. When are you going to give it back? And I feel like they don't have an answer for that. And that's the bad part. Because if I'm Barry Sanders, if I'm Megatron, because here's my thing: when Barry and Megatron, when they retired, they had to give some of that money back. If I'm Barry, if I'm Megatron, I'm calling a lawyer to see if I can get that money back for making me give it back when I retire. Because I'm looking at the team now. I'm looking at these teams now that they're putting out on the field, and they're doing nothing to help these quarterbacks, mainly Stafford, because Stafford's been there over 10 years. You're doing nothing to help Stafford, who was, once again, you had two franchise players when you had him and Megatron, and you did nothing. You did nothing to help these players, and I don't think that's fair. Something got to give, man. At least I feel like something got to give.
No, I agree wholeheartedly with that, man. And then you figure, thinking about it too, with Stafford, and this is me, just throwing my little 2 cents on there, just because, like, with Georgia and all of that, you can't trust their quarterbacks in the NFL like that. I mean, the last known quarterback that I know of from Georgia was like Fran Tarkenton on that level. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that, I mean, who else can you really name that you're going to get from there that's going to be that guy?
To my defense, I did not know Tarkenton went to Georgia. I did not.
Yep, that's a Georgia QB. So that's what I'm saying. It's like really far and wide. You know what I mean? You're not going to get a whole lot of that from there because they're known for their backs, not for the QBs that come out of that school. And then you got to think too, like, where are you going to get that package deal that you thought you were going to get when you saw him? Because I'll be honest, for me, I'll be more critical because of who we had running the ball, because of who we had to throw to. Then I wasn't sure if he was that guy or if he just had the talent around him. Because during that season, right, you had Sean Moreno in the backfield. You had A.J. Green catching the ball. Mohamed Massaquoi, I believe, was on that team as well, too, right?
Yeah, look how he turned out.
Right. Well, he had that whole hand situation, too. That was terrible. But, like, with him, and then also you go a little bit further. On the defense, that's who I believe Geno Atkins was playing for them at that time frame. And they have a couple of other names I'm forgetting at the moment. But, like, you look at this, you go, okay, you have these people around you. So it's like, are you that good, or are you making them better, or are they better, or whatever? You know what I mean? So I didn't know for a fact that he was going to turn out the way that he has so far in the league, just based off of that. But it's just cool to see him get a fresh start, man. even though he is a little bit older now, this, should be the look that he'll get and have a better line and better guys to throw to. We'll see what happens.
Well, I don't want to be unfair about this. I honestly think that Stafford will play out better in this trade. He's
Mm-hmm.
got a new team. He's in warm weather, got a brand new stadium. You know,
True.
as a player, what else could you ask for? So,
Yeah.
uh, just I just think that's a win-win for Stafford. I don't know about the Lions yet, but we'll see. Um, somebody posed this question to me while we're
Okay.
still on the NFL. Somebody posed this question, and at the time, I didn't have an answer because it came out of nowhere. So, I'm gonna propose this question to you guys: how do the Browns shore up the defense for next year?
Man.
I mean, mostly through the draft. I think that they need to prioritize defense. I'd be surprised if at least 3 of their first 4 picks are going to be defense. The other one maybe being a wide receiver. Um, so that's the start, right? You get Delpit back healthy next year. That's might as well be his rookie season, right? So you maybe need to add a safety if you're not bringing back Carl Joseph. Um, all the key guys are back. Harrison's back. Garrett's back. Ward's back. Um, need some help at linebacker, but this class has been actually a lot stronger than it looked before. There's a lot of
Right.
linebackers I think can help them for sure. The biggest question mark is really, to me, might be in interior defensive line. Sheldon Richardson's got a big contract. Not sure if they're going to try to trade him or just cut him straight up, try to get that deal off the books. Billings didn't play this year. He opted out for COVID, so I don't know if he's coming back next year. And Larry Ogunjobi is a free agent, so they might have some work to do there potentially. But free agency in the draft, see who they can get.
I
Ronnie, what
feel
about
like
you?
for me, in this situation, you're now all of a sudden in a position where you have a lot of safeties. At first, you had like no safeties, and now you have like 6. So you figure you get Delpit back. I agree with that part as well. You still got Ronnie Harrison out of that trade that you made with Jacksonville. I would love to see actually Delpit and Harrison opposite each other. I would love that. I don't know if
That
that'll
would be
happen,
great.
but that would be awesome, right? So you have that. I like Carl Joseph staying on the team. He has definitely showed that he can handle the load. I would definitely resign that dude. Um, Actually, they don't play red wine enough. They don't
They
play red
don't
wine enough.
they don't
And
play
every time
that.
he's had to step in, he's played like really well. And I'm like, give the guy some more snaps. I don't know. But I would definitely keep him too. You already know how I feel about Sendejo. God.
Everybody
Cut
feels
that
like
dude.
way about
Cut
today.
cut that dude. He the first one on the bus. Gone. Let that guy go, please. Please. He got to go. He ain't coming back. The linebacker core definitely. I feel like, hopefully you get a healthy Mac Wilson all season. Taki definitely stepped up this year for sure. I would get a couple more coverage type guys like that, only because with the way these teams are playing and how their passing packages is and us getting burnt in the middle, because there's always that wide open gap right there for the tight ends. I mean, you seen what Baltimore did. Their offense was like made for our defense, I felt like, going down the field. You just throw to Andrews all day and it's wide open every single time for like 12 to 15 yards. I mean, it felt like it. So you got to get some more coverage type linebackers out there for that reason. The draft, definitely, I would say they would need to do that through. I don't feel like they'll need to do any kind of veterans, unless they do choose to do what everybody's talking about in terms of maybe entertaining the whole Von Miller situation, only because he did play in Joe Wood's defense previously. I don't know if I would necessarily do that right now, just because difference in age and stuff like that, and I'm not sure if he would be able to translate the same way coming to Cleveland. I would have loved to see that like 4 years ago. That'd be great, but now I'm not so sure about that one. I like your comment about the interior line because I don't know that they will keep both Ogunjobi and Richardson. I feel like one of them is going to be gone. In terms of what their impact was, I do feel like they may look to keep Richardson and may let Ogunjobi walk. Um, and then who was the defensive lineman that filled in for Vernon? Because he did pretty well
Uh,
too. Was that
Porter
Claiborne?
Gustin was Gustin and Claiborne. Yeah, those
Yeah,
are the two.
Claiborne
yeah,
was nice. Got to
Mhm.
keep Claiborne. That dude was. He got better
Yeah,
every game.
he's got
He got
one.
better
He's got
every
one
game.
year left. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you got to
Pretty bad.
keep him. Don't do nothing with him. I would say
Mhm.
even if you're at a point where okay, Vernon's probably out, so you have Claiborne and Garrett, unless you're going to draft another edge rusher.
Right.
Because I would like to see some more speed up the middle. To be honest, I would say
Absolutely.
maybe draft an edge rusher the opposite Garrett and put Claiborne in the middle. You know
well,
what I
Even
then what
mean?
do
Garrett.
you do for? Well, then
Yeah.
if you do that, what do you do for Richardson then? Because Richardson can handle the middle too.
Maybe both of them be in the middle, just those two, and then have an edge rusher that you draft outside of Garrett, and that's a strong D line right there. That's a really good D line. Now, as far as linebacker, I would look to even hire a new strength and conditioning coach. These cats is being hurt too often. I'm sorry. Like Denzel Ward can't figure out what he want to do with his groin and his hips, right? You got Greedy Williams coming back. I don't know what you do with him. I really don't at this point because he was getting burnt
Well,
a lot of deep coverages previously, and him being out this season, I'm like, you can't really gauge what he's going to end up doing. This technically his third year, but really his second. Um,
well,
I don't know.
I
I don't
I
know.
would say with a lot of these guys we've mentioned, well, that you two have mentioned, I'm noticing that you know Richardson's gonna Richardson still has the good contract for him, but what
Yeah,
I was thinking was because it's just a theory because I know as a football fan, I want to see the best players on any team stay with the team just because that team looked so much stronger for whatever reason. And in this
yeah.
particular case, I honestly feel I could be wrong and people might disagree, but um, I felt like the defensive line was stronger with Richardson in as opposed
Oh
to
yeah.
Ogunjobi, only
Oh yeah.
because
Hands down. Yeah.
I felt like Richardson was the stronger of the two. He was the faster of the two,
Yep.
and he it felt it on screen because we weren't at the games, but on screen it looked like he wanted it more because he was literally out for blood. He like him and Garrett had a bet. Look, first one to the
Yeah.
quarterback, $50.
They
You
was
know,
shredding it. Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like my theory was Richardson takes a pay cut, gets more years with Cleveland,
Hmm.
because the pay cut can be chopped up differently. So my theory was Richardson takes a pay cut, gets more years. Ogunjobi walks. I hate to see him go, but it's football.
Yeah.
And in the draft, like you guys said, they pick up another edge rusher or an interior lineman out of free agency, one of the younger guys. 'Cause I don't think they need any older vet guys.
No,
So
stay away from
I'm
that.
thinking, yeah, uh, I'm thinking a younger free agent vet or in the draft,
Hmm.
and that defensive line is set. You can find everything else with your next three picks at linebacker for whatever you need. I know BYU's got a linebacker coming out,
Hmm.
and I know if I'm not mistaken, I wouldn't go this route just because I don't trust this year's team. But I know Ohio State has couple of linebackers coming out, and I know Bama's got a linebacker coming out. So you could go wrong with any of the four teams I just mentioned
True.
sending out a linebacker, especially with BYU. The Polynesians are inheriting the West Coast, so I I could see this going multiple ways. And for the Browns' sake, I hope it gets better because you see the progress they made the playoffs, won a playoff game, took Kansas City to the wire. You know, I know it
Hmm.
looked bad in the first half, but the second half took Kansas City to the wire. If it's not for a BS call that should have been made, we might see Kansas City in not Kansas City, but we might see the Browns in the AFC Championship. You know,
Yeah, man.
so I'm feeling like the Browns are up to some sneaky shit for the good,
Hmm.
and I think this might be a surprising year.
See, here's another thing I want to throw out there, man, and this is why I was talking about, having a little bit more speed in there, because you figure we do know that Richardson is the fastest of the two between him and Ogunjobi. You know, he does get after it a little bit more. That's the guy you're going to look at in the interior when it comes to the pass rush as well, too. You're not really checking for Ogunjobi like that when it comes to the pass rush. Now, when it comes to, let's say, trying to figure out that speed versus like the power game, all of that, run plugging versus, pass rush. That's why I had to throw Claiborne in the middle if you get another edge rusher. Because in Joe Wood's defense, we've seen he doesn't blitz much, right?
Right.
So if you get some guys that are a little more athletic in the interior of that line, just the defensive line across the board, you now have a situation where you can pretty much just use those four guys as your core of that pass rush, and then you can choose to do some different things with your packages in terms of where defensive backs and your linebackers mixing it up for coverages. So my thing is like, if they do this, I feel like that would be definitely the core of that. And like you said, Mel, if you go and you get some guys who are, younger in the free agency, if you choose to go that route, that's cool too, because the core of this team is its youth. For them to
Right.
be able to do what they did this year, it's not an old team. This is a very
Right.
young team.
Young
They're gonna be
team.
around for a
Young
minute. And
team.
the biggest problem that they're gonna actually have for once is how do you keep the guys? That's the biggest problem
Yeah.
they're gonna have is how do you keep them together. So what you mentioned about that pay cut, I like that only because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is this Landry's contract year coming up?
Mm-hmm.
This
Next
his
year.
final season
Next
next
year.
year?
No, it's next year.
So you
But I
figure you
know,
got,
but I know Baker's got a contract year coming up after this year.
yep, he does his fourth
Um,
season.
Denzel.
I I
Denzel as
know
well.
Landry's got it. Landry's got one next year as well. And if I'm not mistaken, might be Ward. Don't quote me on that, but
Yeah,
it might
Ward
be
and
Ward
Ward and
and
Mayfield this year.
yeah. So and like I said, I don't think that it will happen. But my theory and this is just me thinking if I'm Kevin Stefanski. I'm in the general manager's office. I'm talking to them because I know it's not just always a general manager. It's a general manager, the assistant general manager, player personnel, and a head coach. So
Hmm.
in my head, as this was playing out, I was thinking, what if he takes a pay cut, or what if they could convince him to take a pay cut, but they'll give him more years, which in a sense is going to give him more money anyway than
Right.
just the upfront money he's getting in his contract.
Yeah, throw some incentives in there or something, man. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and he's got the talent to get to reach said incentives.
Exactly.
So that was my theory. They convince him to take a pay cut. They give him more years. He's got incentives on his contract. They use this money to keep Baker, keep Ward. Garrett's already got the big money, so we're not worried
Hmm.
about him. Um, and they use what's left after they paid Baker, after they paid Ward. They use what's left to keep who they need to keep this team together because we haven't seen Browns teams like this since the 90s, since the early 90s.
True.
Keeping Eric Turner together, keeping him together with Testaverde, Leroy Horde, Michael Dean Perry. This would be something I I hope would happen,
Hmm.
but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah. No, I feel that, man. Because and there's no reason why I said they got to get like another like strength and conditioning coach, something like that. Because we got to figure out a way to keep Ward out there, man. Brother too fragile, man. He got to figure something up, switch up the diet, something, man. I don't know, but you can't let a guy like that walk because he's the only DB that I've seen or that I read about that has allowed what was it, less than 40% completions consistently for the last 3 years. Even when he's
Yeah.
hurt, he comes back, he still does that. I mean, this last game was probably the most completions that he's given up his entire career so far,
I
right?
mean, it's
So
Kansas City though.
it's Kansas City. I mean,
Everybody's
everybody's a
giving up.
track. Everybody's a track runner on that team. Like, goodness gracious, man.
Right.
Who
Yeah,
can cover them anyway?
that's
God.
like playing the teams the U teams back in the early 2000s. Like
Oh yeah,
you're not going to catch these guys if you don't have the speed to catch up with them.
exactly. Like you figure back then, and I'm glad you said that. That made me think instantly. Like, could you imagine in college having to cover Reggie Wayne and Andre Johnson,
Wouldn't
both of them
happen.
fools doing this? Like,
Mm-mm.
mm-mm,
Mm-mm.
mm-mm. And that rivals anything that we could talk about in terms of like even the '08 Gators team, and these cats was. Oh man, that's a whole nother hour. I ain't about to even get on that. I'm
You
sorry.
know what? You know what?
Uh, mm-mm.
Not even being funny. Not even
Scary.
being funny.
Seems scary.
Since we weren't meant to head in that direction, but since it popped up, I did want to talk about this. And Kenny, I want your input on this so much because you're a young guy. You watch college football just like everybody else. Um, there was a uh, a excerpt that I caught from Colin Coward where uh, Colin Coward said there was a storm coming, and the storm was an extended playoff. And I wanted to get both of you guys' thoughts on this because um, I don't know what an extended playoff would look like,
Hmm.
but you know, because it's us, I'm trying to find the image really, really fast. But because it's us, he he said it in a way that made me think, you know, what's an extended playoff going to look like? I can't find the image, but what's an extended playoff going to look like based on last year's or this past season's playoff?
I think the obvious answer is that they'll only expand to 8. I don't think that they'd make a bigger
Hmm.
jump than that. They only went from 2 to 4 in the first place, so why would they go any more than 8 this time? Um, I think in recent years you've been seeing kind of some of the same teams. It's always the SEC powerhouses. Alabama's always in it. Notre Dame's been in it a couple of years recently, and it's always whatever Big Ten favorite, like the Big Ten champion, the SEC champion. They might as well just play for it, whatever. Um, Now I think you'll probably see if you get to 8, you'll see those normal teams. You'll see your Alabamas, your Clemsons, your Ohio States, but maybe you'll also see a Coastal Carolina or a BYU, right? Someone that's usually not in it because they don't play as tough of a schedule, but they finally get in, right? I think the best example would be UCF the year they went undefeated, right? That team was
Hmm.
great. Play Bama more than anything. And to be honest, I wanted to see them play Bama. That team was a lot of fun to watch. They didn't get the opportunity because they're UCF. Who do they play all year? Right? 18 format gives them that chance. So I'm all for it.
And you know what? It's not to, before I run because I know you go, Ronnie. I know how you feel about this. But before you get into this, it's interesting that you mentioned BYU because he also mentioned that BYU and Notre Dame would have to join a conference.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, that's
in
true.
my but in my theory of listening to him, my question was why would they need to? Even without a conference, Notre Dame has the strongest or one of the strongest schedules in college football every year with the traditional rivalries that they have.
You know what? I think part of that is based off of how they looked at an 18 playoff and what the final results look like for this year. So you figure if you do an 18 playoff, and let's say it's based off of what the final results were this year going into next year, you would see Bama versus Cincinnati. That's 1-8. You would see Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. That's 4-5. You would see Clemson versus Florida. That's 2-7. and then you would see Ohio State versus Oklahoma. That's 3-6. Now, all those teams that were mentioned were ones that played in the conference this year. The thing is, though, even with BYU, we saw them, and unfortunately, the one loss they did take did drop them down. But with them going undefeated with the season they currently had, they still kind of were getting played in the rank, and you wouldn't be able to see them in that 8, unfortunately. And I think they're saying that only because they would like to see a team like that make it, but it looks like the ones that have the conferences are the ones that got the favoritism to be potentially in the playoff. So that's why Notre Dame too was like, well, okay, if you're going to force us to play an all-conference season this year, we might as well jump into ACC since we play majority of the teams anyway in all our different sports and stuff. Let's just do that and see what happens to give us a greater chance of being in the CFP. So I think that's probably why. Other than that, I wouldn't be like they need to join one, but I think because of the way it's structured and how they're picking these teams, they almost have to do it just for the sake of being in the playoff. I feel like if they're not, you would have to end up doing like one of those schedule reorders that you would do when you're playing like NCAA 10, and you're like, okay, I see my strength of schedule is a C plus. I want to get it to an A minus, so they can't deny me. And like the first week, you're playing the number 1 overall team just so you can get a boost, and then you're like beating down on the Citadel the next week, and then after that, you're jumping in and you're playing like the number 5 team or whatever it is, and then you go through your regular stuff, and by end of the year, you're like in the top 6, something like that. I don't know, but I feel like it was based off of where they fell. This last rankings.
If you're a player and you attend the Citadel, I apologize.
Sorry, it's just
because we know we beat you guys up a lot,
man,
verbally, and it's not fair to you guys. So if you are watching, we apologize. You're not a bad team. We just know, these big schools like to pick on guys like that.
Right.
It's nothing against you guys.
And at the end of the day, we thank you for your service. So there's that. And at the same time, I mean, we know that there's been some decent military teams. Army always gives us a surprise once in a while. Navy gives us a surprise, Air Force is always doing something weird. But like, the two that I mentioned, I mean, there's been some times where you've seen them, win 9 games in the season. It's like, dang, okay, I see what y'all doing. That's cool, right? But it just is what it is, man. That's always the one school that aren't just getting the player personnel to put together those competitive teams. Unfortunately, what they do off the field, though, I can't do. So I'll say that. But when it comes to the field, it's just not there, unfortunately. But big respect to what they do off the field, man. Seriously. I did want to ask you this, Kenny, man. So we talked about playoff expansion, what that looks like, the 8 teams. And then I would say, all the teams that you had mentioned, because I know we had said something about Coastal Carolina as well, too. Do you feel like if it was, let's say, an 18 playoff this year, if Coastal Carolina would have been a part of that before the, games played out?
Yeah, I think that they would have included at least one small school, because I think with an 18 playoff, they just catch way too much heat from national media, fans, right? They're like, oh, you only include SEC, Big Ten, ACC schools, right? Where's the rest of the NCAA? So I think with an 8 team, at least one of those teams is going to get in. Of course, they lost I don't know if it was their bowl game or their conference championship or whatever, so they didn't finish with the perfect season. But 11-0 is an accomplishment, right? It's one that's hard to ignore versus a team, maybe a 2-loss team getting in that 8th seed, right? Are you going to put in the 2-loss team just because they played better competition? It's tough to do that.
Yeah. I think I think those 7 and 8 spots would have probably been Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina, to be honest, because they were the 2 best. I mean, if you look at the body of work, Cincinnati in a conference that they really aren't even supposed to be in my personal opinion.
True, I agree with that.
They ran through the American, and not only did they run through the American, they were doing it in blowout fashion. Not to mention, Coastal Carolina got the win of the century. They beat BYU, who was knocking on the door to the college playoff and was like, we here. They scheduled that game at the 11th hour. They played it on a Saturday, played it to the wire. That was one of the more exciting games and one of the more entertaining games of the season. So honestly, I feel like Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina take those 7th and 8th spots. And honestly, I think both teams make noise in the process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. Going back to the NFL just for this topic, Super Bowl, February 7th, which is basically next week. Who you guys got?
It is impossible to bet against the GOAT. With that being said, I think this is the only time I'll ever do it. I'm going Chiefs over Bucks. I think the Chiefs are just a little bit too good. Now, this is assuming that Mahomes is 100% healthy, which I think he is. I think the Chiefs are just pretty healthy in general. Their whole team looks good. Their offense is almost unstoppable. But you never know with Tom. You never know. He's never out of any game. If they can keep it close, he's the best.
Yeah, it had to be a Michigan guy. Had to be a Michigan guy.
For me, I would say I like the Chiefs in this one as well. Mahomes just finds a way to, get these guys the ball and spread it out. I think it's very hard for any defense to cover Kelsey. To have a tight end like that in the middle, man, is just dangerous, in this game. And of course, we've seen that before with, previous years when Gronk and Brady were teaming up, but these are a different version of Gronk and Brady in this year's Super Bowl, right? Also, I feel like the thing that'll help Brady out the most, obviously, would be the defense. Because, of course, he had 3 picks last game, and the defense has been kind of helping out a lot with regards to their play as well, too. They don't get enough credit this year for what they've done. So that's going to be a little bit of a difference maker, but I'm not sure if they have the people to be able to cover that amount of speed out there. You'll get Sammy Watkins back this time. You'll also have, obviously, Tyreek Hill, and then McCole Hardman as well. So that's a lot of people to cover. And then in the backfield, you'll have both running backs active this time as well too. So they'll be fully at 100% this time. I was trying to say. I feel like it's one of those games where, like, the Chiefs may win, and then it's like passing of the torch. Brady passing that torch down to Mahomes, man, because Mahomes ain't going nowhere. It'll be interesting to see, what that looks like over the next few years. Obviously, I feel like there will be another team that will rise up to be able to challenge that. I don't think it'll be somewhere as long as a run that New England had, but I do feel like it will be very competitive. And it's just good to see that overall, to see things switch up or to see different teams out there playing. Like, you figure we haven't seen Tampa in what, 20 years almost. So
Yeah,
being back
pretty
in
much.
it, last time they played was against the Raiders in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
With that team, Warren Sapp and you
Derek
figure
Brooks.
Derek Brooks and was All-Star part of that team too.
Yeah, I believe so.
Mike Allstott, and then you figure on the other end you had a bunch of older players. I mean, that was the last time I got a chance to fully see, like, Rod Wilson, Jerry Rice, Rich Gannon was playing for them, Orlando Pace. They had a lot of big names, a lot of Hall of Famers, and you got to see them in their prime or a little bit past their prime, actually. Some guys, no disrespect, but they were in the Super Bowl, right? And to see that was just amazing. Bill Callahan was there, doing his thing with them. So it's just cool to see, like, this shift happen in the NFL right now, even with COVID happening, and still seeing that play out the way that it did too this year. I'm very excited for the next season. It was just a really good season to watch overall. I felt like we needed that. We definitely needed that. It wasn't as predictable as some of the other seasons have been.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I'm not a Tom Brady fan. Let me express this. And by no means Tom Brady fan. Michigan guy, can't stand him. Patriots guy, didn't like him. The last time the Buccaneers were in this situation, they won the Super Bowl. And defense was the catalyst for that. Because if we remember, the the quarterback, who wasn't a bad quarterback, but he wasn't a gunslinger or Peyton Manning, was Brad Johnson. If I'm not mistaken.
Brad Johnson. Yeah, I forgot about
So
Brad. Yeah.
this is an entirely different scenario.
Mhm.
They have the right quarterback. They have the running game behind. They have receivers that can catch. And in the playoffs, this defense has been playing lights out. They just made Aaron Rodgers look foolish. I want to pick Kansas City, but logically, the way the defense is playing for Tampa Bay, I cannot ignore that. I'm going with the Bucks. I something about it just says Bucks with the defense.
Yeah. Because you know what? And speaking of which, these are the guys that we forgot, and this is what made the difference in that game. Speaking of defense, so we already mentioned Warren Sapp. Okay. Now we forgot about John Lynch. We forgot about Rondé Barber and Derrick Brooks and Simeon
I didn't.
Rice.
I ain't forget about Derrick Brooks. You forgot about Derrick Brooks.
I forgot about Simeon Rice though. That I did forget about.
Yeah.
'Cause that boy
That was a young
that
Simeon
year.
Rice, though.
That was a young Simeon Rice. That boy was smoking off the line, killing it, right?
Okay.
John Lynch was trying to get everybody concussions.
Not to cut you off on this.
No, you good.
I had to throw this in here. United States. Well, this is an international friendly, getting ready for the World Cup this year. United States is not being so nice. This is the men's friendly, by the way.
Okay.
So, the United States ain't being too friendly with the country of Trinidad and Tobago. 7-0 over Trinidad and Tobago. It is not good in the 72nd minute.
Ooh.
Yikes.
Wow. What do we do with that?
I don't know what you do with that. The game was over. When I checked the update, it was 4-0. So I said, okay, that's respectable. They'll probably leave it there.
Yeah.
And I just clicked on the game cast to see how, who scored. It's 7-0. I don't know how much more friendly you need to be in a situation like this. Because, theoretically, friendlies are supposed to be just that, friendly matches,
Right.
Warming up. You're already in the World Cup. You're just, let's get this game in one time, see how we look and see what we need to do. And apparently, but this isn't nothing out of the normal, but just to see it like this early, it's like, come on, like be a little nicer to these guys.
Look, man, as soon as you mentioned that, I pulled it up. And when you're scoring 3 goals in 10 minutes, I mean, you just
that's too much.
I mean, the 52nd minute, the 55th minute, and the 62nd minute. I mean, 62nd, like,
and you've got 2 players that have scored 2 goals apiece.
Oh man, it's looking like FIFA.
It's just nice to finally see US being good for once, right?
That's true too. Especially on the men's side.
To enjoy it for a while.
I was about to say the men's side, the women's side don't have no problem. Men's side,
they loaded.
Yeah.
The men's side is where all them issues coming in. I want to address this before we move on to our last real topic. Before we get into our sports games, I want to address this. Friend of mine, Andre said that it wasn't political. What will make more money for TV? This is going back to the college playoff topic, and they did it wrong. What did they do wrong this year, Dre? I don't even want to talk about the entirety of the college playoff. I want to hear about the season that just passed. What did they do wrong? Because I can tell you right now, in a COVID-stricken season, every team in college football lost at least 2 games to COVID reasons. Not only did they lose 2 games, a lot of those teams that lost games were not able to make them up. including Alabama. I don't think Alabama made those games up. I think they kept moving. It's 14
Yeah, they
teams in
kept
the
it
SEC.
moving.
Yeah, it's 14 teams in the SEC. It's 14 in the Big Ten, and it's 14 in the ACC. So even with those two games that Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson lost, they still kept it moving. I get how you feel about it. I know you feel like it's political, but in this instance, the committee got it right. Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, and Clemson were the best four teams in all of college football in 2020. Nobody could touch them.
Mhm.
What else were you gonna do?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, they had 7 games. They were supposed to play 8 or 9. They lost 2 games to COVID. It wasn't like they just, oh, we ain't got enough people in the stands, we gonna cancel the game. This was a national pandemic season, bro. They lost 2 games.
They also
Alabama
started
lost two
4 to 6
games.
weeks later than the SEC too.
Thank you. They started 4 to 6 weeks later than everybody else outside of the Pac-12. What else did you want them to do? The board of directors for the Big Ten got it right. Ohio State was the most dominant team in the Big Ten. Clemson, Clemson and Notre Dame, a cut above the rest of the ACC. The next closest team to them was Miami, and Miami had what, 3 losses?
Yep.
Alabama was the only undefeated team. The committee for the college playoff got it right. You can't argue with it. If you go back and look at every team, hell, BYU had to schedule another game just so they wouldn't lose momentum. And even then, they lost.
Mhm.
Ohio State played 7 games a month after the SEC started. The SEC was the first team to start football. The Big Ten had to fight. The Big Ten and Pac-12 conferences had to fight to get their seasons. Because if they didn't, they were just going to hand the championship to Alabama. We all know this.
Mhm. Very
If you
true.
want to argue this with Stephen A. Smith, he'd tell you the same thing. I know everybody don't agree with Stephen A., but it's true. Stephen A. know better. Colin Coward know better. You know, you're in a worldwide pandemic. Your best 4 teams showed it. They showed it. It's on ESPN Classic now. They showed it. And three sports journalists had to cover all of this all season. Me and Kenny had an argument over who was better, Notre Dame or Clemson at one point, and they both made it in the same conference. There's no other way to say it. The committee this year for the 2020 season, they got it right.
Very true. And then
What
I don't remember last time they had 2 ACC teams in the college playoff.
they never did. They never did. That was a jump.
So that was a
That
huge
was a
jump for them.
that was the It's usually 2 SEC teams because remember, it
Mhm.
was one year Georgia and Bama played for the national championship, and then after playing for the conference championship.
Yep. And here's another thing for you. You had 2 ACC teams this year, and then you didn't have any Big 12 representation. I get that, but at the same time, though, well, we weren't going
No
to,
Pac-12
but
either.
no Pac-12. And these are 2 different conferences that were represented earlier in the college football playoff scenario, right? And then on top of that, there wasn't a whole lot of argument only because you had way more teams that had 1 to 2 losses this time around too.
Right,
Only
right,
undefeated was OSU and Bama.
right. And then here's this one. What about the Bearcats instead of Ohio State? You really believe that the Bearcats would have got that high up? Come on,
Um,
man. I'm sorry. Dre, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. You have to understand where you play at in conference is going to tell you how far you're going to get. This was not the year that you need to worry about an outside team because it wasn't going to happen. Meaning, yes, Cincinnati is a good team, but they're not better than Ohio State. Look at reality. Cincinnati is a basketball school. Luke Fickle came from a football school to make that basketball school better in football. Now, what I will tell you is don't be surprised because you brought this up. Don't be surprised if you see Cincinnati within the next 2 to 3 years leave the American Conference and go to a Power Five conference. Oh, I don't know, the Big Ten,
I would love
which
that.
is sitting right there. We all would, because that would make football so much better to watch.
Yes, it would.
So
I
don't
mean,
be
goodness.
so don't be surprised if that happens. But because the Bearcats play in the American Conference, which is essentially the remnants of the Big East, and the Big East is now playing in the ACC. Because if you look at all the teams, or a majority of the teams that were in the Big East, Miami, Boston College, Pitt, they're all Virginia Tech, they're all in the ACC. Syracuse, I forgot about Syracuse. They're all in the ACC. The American is full of teams that used to get beat up on, and now they're sitting up there tired of taking those ass whoopings. Yeah, yes, we did have that conversation before, and my end of it is not gonna change. Cincinnati was not good enough. They're not gonna beat, not right now, maybe 2 years from now, but they're not gonna beat Alabama. There's no way in hell that's gonna happen. You throw Cincinnati in the college playoff. Kenny's shaking his head because he's trying to keep him laughing. You throw Cincinnati in the college playoff against Bama. What do you think is gonna happen? They're
I
gonna
mean,
get dog walked.
if you can't beat Georgia in a rebuilding year,
Yeah. You you throw Cincinnati against any of the top four teams, they're not gonna win. They may make it look entertaining, but they're not gonna win.
I think they could
It's
beat
just,
Notre Dame. I think they could take him.
you know what? Now that you say that, looking at that Bama game, they got exposed a lot in the passing
yeah.
game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And Cincinnati's quarterback is very accurate. So I could honestly, that's like the one game, if they were to make the college playoff, that's the one game I could see them actually having a chance to win. But winning against Clemson, winning against Bama, they don't even beat Ohio State in the early in the non-conference games. It's just not gonna happen. But we got to move on. So, uh, did I make this a banner? No, I didn't. But we'll make it now. Okay. Smooth. You brought this up,
Hmm.
and you sent this to me, and this was I didn't even feel I didn't finish reading it. I didn't finish reading it at all. But this was groundbreaking. So let me and Kenny know what you discovered today.
So with regards to Lionel Messi, okay, he right now it says that he has contract earnings of 674 million. Right? It said it was leaked by a Spanish newspaper. This dude's contract that he has with them, it is bigger than what they say contracts of like LeBron and Mahomes, and they were saying his yearly salary alone is more than the combination of LeBron, Mahomes, and also I believe Brady. Put them all together, they still make more than all three of them in 1 year. But they were talking about like how basically he's going to be the first or one of the first in our lifetime billionaire soccer players just off of the money making from the actual play. We're not even including endorsements or none of that other stuff, man, that they make their real money off
Wow.
of. This cat is being paid literally $674 million, bro, right, for his contract. And we were all like,
Where do you
jumping for joy when it came to like Mahomes and all that, him is 500 something. I was okay, cool, that's cool. We love to see that. But 674 mil to one guy. I mean, granted,
where do you
he's
even get that money?
I don't even know how they got that money and still have other people around him to play. You know,
Right.
how do you do that? Where's it coming from? You know what I'm saying?
What you
So to
gonna do?
me,
Would you clone him and just put him all over the field? Like,
right? Like I don't get like they gonna have that man pretty much out there till he 50. You know what I'm saying? Just playing because they say here hands down. Here's what happened. So they said the contract itself, right? It says it was signed back in 2017. Okay. It says there was a retiring reporter who said basically he would get 555 mil over 4 years. He would have an annual salary of 138 million with variables. They call it variables, right? He has
How many goals he don't score?
Right, exactly. Has 115 million renewal fee. Okay, and a $77 million to renew. And he has a $77 million loyalty bonus.
Bruh.
Yeah, dog. They keeping that man. They are buying his soul, literally.
Roman,
you ain't going nowhere.
Soccer.
You ain't going nowhere. I dare you to leave. That's what they're saying. I dare you to leave.
Why would you?
You don't. You
600
can't.
mil. Why would you?
You'd be dumb.
Even if he could. Even if he could,
never
why
make
would
that
you? 670 mil, bro. Come on.
No one's gonna pay him that anywhere else.
Nope. But in 4 years, though, 4 years, that's your base salary.
So let me get this straight. So let me get this straight. Wait, I just thought I'm listening to you and I hear everything that you're saying. He signed this back in 2017.
Yep.
So this contract is. That's my point. This contract has been under wraps for 4 years and it's just now coming out.
Just coming out. Just getting leaked in the 4th year. What's that about?
Man.
What's that about, man?
I don't know what that's about.
Just saying, I don't like it.
Bro,
he the man. No, I ain't gonna hate on him, but I don't like
is.
Oh, I'm not hating by any means. I'm more baffled than anything. Like, y'all kept this under wraps for 4 years. Y'all are good. Whoever the organization is behind, the bookkeeping, y'all are good.
Yeah.
Y'all kept that under wraps for 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, you figure an additional 115 million just for accepting the contract.
That's a nice signing.
What?
That's a signing bonus. That's a signing bonus. That's a signing
bonus.
That's
a hell of a signing bonus, man. That's a hell of a signing bonus.
Because I know people looking at me crazy like, what does that mean, renewal fee? Bruh, just putting your name on the contract, dog. That's what that means. Like, I'm going to give you 555 mil and pay you an additional 115 to sign your name.
Damn, man, we're going to give you additional 115 if you just promise not to leave.
Exactly. And then after you sign everything, we will still give you an additional 77 million to stick around. Just to stick around. After you've even signed everything and given you your signing bonus, I'm gonna give you an additional 77 million to stick around.
I wonder if David Beckham knows about this.
I wonder.
And I wonder if he's pissed about this.
Yeah. What can you do?
He's doing all right. I saw that. He's doing all right.
Yeah, for sure, man. But when I saw that, I got to talk about that. I gotta bring that.
This dude better not even show up to the class reunion. He giving out money everywhere he go.
Yeah. Oh,
600 mil. 600 mil. You won't even see that kind of money. And it's nothing against anybody, but you won't even see that kind of money. That's not even Michael Jordan money. That's beyond Mike's money.
Nope. That is beyond that.
Roman, you going to play soccer.
And that's 4 years, not 10.
That's just 4?
4 years, bro. That's 4 years. It's not even 10 because Mahomes is a 10-year deal, right? Mm-hmm. You got somebody like Mike Trout, what his name is, getting 420 over 12 years. This is 4. Yep. I can't stop doing this. It's driving me crazy.
The few things I know about soccer is that you can kind of freely negotiate as a player with any team you want, as long as you don't have something in your contract. So that's where the just staying around money comes in handy, right?
Right.
But more than that, right? So it's able to be so big because since you can just sell players instead of trading them, which sounds awful, right? It sounds really fucked up, but it doesn't.
That sounds like indentured servitude.
Right? So if you sell a player for 80 mil, you get that 80 mil to do whatever you want with, right? You can go out and buy more players. You can invest or you can just give it all to Messi, which is what I guess what they.
Exactly. That's exactly what they did. Hey, look,
That's exactly it.
We gonna give you all this, but you got to stay here. Well, just max out. And we got a final in the international friendly between Trinidad and Tobago and the U.S. Same score, 7-0. Oh, now they want to calm down, 7-0.
Right. Now you want to be all cheer.
And you know what? I hope this is a precursor because I don't want this to be hyped up where the U.S. gets all, yeah, we good, and then they get smacked in the World Cup in the first round because I'm going to be pissed.
From what I know, this is the best they've been since I've been alive, so I'm ready.
You know what? And what's sad about this is because I know you're a young guy, but before it got to this point, they actually were good. They would at least make it to the second round of group play or stage play in the World Cup. But that was Kobe Jones and Landon Donovan when he was a young Landon Donovan.
Yeah, well, hey, they say this is gonna be the golden era that we're entering. So it might be. I
hope so. I hope so. Just some other scores around the world of soccer. Liverpool smacks West Hamburg 3-1. Excuse me. Chelsea beats on Burnley, but that's Burnley 2-0. I'm not happy with that contract, man. Not because I think it's a bad contract. It's just, what did you say in negotiations that worked?
What dirt does he have on Barcelona, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying, man. Because you would never see Ronaldo getting that money. Not like that.
Man.
I mean, he getting paid, but he ain't getting paid like
you
that.
You don't see Ronaldinho getting that kind of money.
Exactly.
And they won. And they won today. They won today 2-1 over Athletic. So
my God. The fact that contract got leaked. Just hearing that, it's like, what? Your contract got leaked.
I know Ronaldo's he's the first $1 billion man from soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is, but not like
at
this.
Least beat him to that.
That's about the only. That's not even gonna last long.
It's not.
Man, Ronaldinho about to go bust his ass. Watch. He about to go find Messi.
Oh man.
All right. Last topic for tonight. This is our second sports games episode, and we are touching baseball. So the thing about this one is we're getting rid of the 4 worst, and we're just gonna go with the best. And I thought this was a better way to do it because nobody cares about the worst games. They're the worst games for a reason. So I'm going to start this one off, and I know I'm going to have to find these, but here we go. First one for me, Mario Super Sluggers. Now, for those that don't know, Mario is Mario. He goes to save the princess. He goes killing, stepping on mushrooms or eating mushrooms and jumping on turtle shells. But when it comes to baseball, he actually made this game very entertaining. And the fact that you get a whole workout because you have to be the batter, pitcher, and everything, it made it good. So I take that with a grain, but it was a very entertaining video game nonetheless. At number 3, World Series 98. Now, again, this was one of those series of baseball games where it was already a great game on Sega Genesis because Sega, was the king of sports games. And with the rosters, with the ability to coordinate pitches, going from the farm system to a degree, which was one of the first games to do that back then. You can't go wrong with it. It graphically hasn't aged well, but if you can get past the graphics, it's still a great game. And this was to my knowledge, this was one of the first three-dimensional games where you get to go run through the catcher if you're charging home plate.
That's cool.
All right. And number 2, Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball. I didn't want to put the video game version of this up because it's so ugly. They make Griffey's lips look like this, and it's like, oh my God. And I'm surprised he didn't yell at. You've seen that cover, or you've seen the game intro rather. And I'm surprised he didn't call Nintendo and cuss them out about that. But it made millions of dollars, and it's still one of the best baseball games you can find on any system. So, and of course he would be the only glitch in the game because no matter how you pitch to him, it's either going to be a triple or a home run. And he's the fastest player. He catches every out in the outfield. It was just, that's what made it fun to play for him. At number 1 for me, Baseball Stars 2. Now, because this is a Neo Geo game, Nick Kenny, this was a Neo Geo game back in the early to mid 90s. This game focused on the Japanese side of baseball because we always get the American side, the farm systems, the Rays, the Yankees, the Braves. This one made it entertaining. You get there was an option where you got to hype up your bat, get more power. The field was like 18 times longer than it needed to be, but that was okay. And I'm glad I found this too, because this was my favorite part of the game. If you hit a batter, they charge the mound and knock your pitcher out. So, say for the sake of argument, your best pitcher, you're playing as a batter, and their best pitcher hit your batter, you went to charge the mound, knock the pitcher out, and they can't use that pitcher for the rest of the game anymore. He's done. Not only is he knocked, and they showed him laid out after the screenshot.
Oh, that's awesome.
They showed him laid out. They show you his teammates coming to help him out, but by that point he's already asleep. So that was what did it for me. That you can't. I know we missing Landon, but I know Landon said something about backyard baseball. But when you charge the mound and they show you knocking out the other team's pitcher, can't beat it. Can't beat it. All right, Smooth, we're going to move on to you, and I'm going to let you take it from there because I know you got your list. Hopefully it's as funny as mine, but if not, I'm going to still respect it.
No, it's all good, man. So for me, my number 4 was Mlb the Show06. By that point, I wasn't really playing a whole lot of baseball games, but it was something that I hadn't tested out yet on a PS4. So I said, okay, cool. If I'm going to play all these different sports games on a PS4, I might as well try baseball as well, right? With this, it was really good in terms of like how it portrayed each stadium. The accuracy was definitely there. There was no question about it. Even from like the way the grass looked and all that, it was just really detailed. So I love that part about it. Also, what I like too is there's a retro mode. So in that game, you have retro mode. Yeah, dog. There's a retro mode where you basically can select it to look like one of the old school baseball games, have more of that like 16-bit feel to it. You know what I mean? So that was pretty dope to see that kind of mode added to something like this on a platform like a PS4. So I felt like that was pretty cool to kind of jump back and forth and go, okay, make you think about some of these older games that we used to play and go, oh, okay, I can make this kind of look similar to that or have that feel or even the lettering and whatnot. So I did like that feature a lot too. For my third, I had Ken Griffey Jr.'s winning run. With that, this is the first. Well, for me, it was the first game I ever played when it came to baseball. So it's just something different about those first games that you played. So like with him, and then you figure on different platforms, whatever consoles you had, you'll never forget those, whether they were great or terrible. But with this game, it was like, I'm a huge Griffey fan. With him, I feel like in this game, it was really easy to hit home runs because they had that cheat code or whatnot for power hitters. And for Griffey, he was the guy that had the speed and the power. So you was going to knock it out the park anyway. But it only worked for power hitters. You couldn't do it for everybody. Also, they
Yeah, I
had a
remember.
code, but they had a code too where you can make the other team have a bunch of errors. So, you're just manipulating the
How?
whole game.
I don't.
Hey,
I
man.
don't remember that one.
Hey,
I
man,
don't.
look,
You know what?
bruh,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I played
bruh.
Ken Griffey Jr. the first one, and then I played
Mm,
this one, and I was upset because
mhm.
my expectation at the time of Ken Griffey Jr. baseball games was the first one. What
Oh,
could
yeah.
you do that you couldn't top that one? And then they came out with Winning Run, and they made it more realistic. I guess they gave it to Rare, which was
Hmm.
something I didn't know Rare was known for outside of Killer Instinct and Donkey
Right.
Kong.
Yep.
Um, I expected more. I expected them to improve on Major League Baseball and
Hmm.
keep that going. But I clearly I was wrong.
Well, you
Everybody's
know what,
got
though?
different.
I give you that, though, because, like, for me, and this is where I would agree with you with this one. If you're playing the game regular, it's not that fun. You have to use the codes, man, to make it fun. But the codes you gave you were so significant, and you had to obviously put them in like when the game was paused was the only way you could enter in those codes anyway. So you would do that, and I would like lie back in the day and be like, "Yeah, hold on, man, I'm trying to fix something real quick, whatever." I'll just lie and be like, one moment," and I'll tap some buttons. What are you doing? Oh, don't worry about it. It's cool. You can keep playing or whatever. And next thing you know, I got like 8 home runs in one inning or something like that. So I was cheating. I was cheating. Um,
Obviously.
I, I put it out there. So for me, it was like a more of a nostalgia thing. Um, the second one I had was MLB the Show 06.
Which one is that?
Now,
No, that's 19.
so for MLB the Show 06, with this one, it was very easy to hit home runs in this game. All you had to do, and this is something now, I don't know if it was a glitch or like an actual ability to, hit with. All you had to do was hold up the left analog stick, right? Hit the ball, and then if you timed it right, it was out the park like every time. You know what I mean? It was
How?
that simple.
Every time.
How?
So there was that, bruh,
How?
bruh,
And the fact
bruh,
that and the fact that Kenny is nodding his head to this lets me know you
bruh.
assholes found some stuff in these kind of games that
Oh
I
yeah, Mel. See, here's the thing, man. When it came to these games back then, I was that dude always in the, game stores, looking through the arcade books, trying to figure out if they had these special codes and whatnot. Because back then we had to drop like $30 on a damn book to get the
oh
codes.
man,
I
don't
hate that
remind
crap.
me.
But then all of a sudden it was like, what was it called? Passcodes, cheats website or something like that when we had for PS2. That was the first time it was free. Everybody stopped buying them stupid books. 'Cause I had that big, thick, like Mortal Kombat book that was like this thick, had every character, the storyline, the fatalities, the babalities, the friendships, all the moves. So I was invested, right? So the thing is, man,
Obviously.
I had all that stuff. Oh yeah, I was like super nerd. It was dope. But here's the thing: it was real easy to hit home runs on that game. Also, they had players that were like secret that they didn't announce. So
Oh
Barry Bonds
God.
is on that game, right? In this game, he's a left fielder for the Giants, but they don't call him Barry Bonds though. But he's on the game,
Oh,
right?
oh,
So
they do
he's
the
in.
Jordan thing. I
Yep, they
got
did the
you.
Jordan
I
thing.
got you.
Now here's one I had to look up because this one I was like, okay, there's somebody else. So Roger Clemens is on there as well too on the Astros, but they have him listed as a player named Kevin Waite.
Oh
He's
man.
he's Kevin Waite. Now the stats aren't as high as you would expect, but if you really want to play with Clemens, his name is Kevin Waite, Waite, and he's actually Roger Clemens on that game with the Houston Astros.
Nice.
Okay, there you go.
Nice.
Now, here's the top one
Nice.
for me. Triple Play 99.
Wait. Hold up. I got something. I got a special one for you for that. I found a
Okay.
very special overlay.
All right, go
Since you
ahead.
said it's Triple Play 99. Kenny, how old are you?
1999, 21.
Oh, this spark's even better. You want to know what games look like with the year you were born?
So I have the whole Triple Play series. Heck
Nice.
There you go. Triple Play 99.
That's
That
awesome.
is a direct image of Triple
at
Play
Jacob's
99
Field.
on the PlayStation.
Look at Jacobs Field. Look at that. Look at Jacobs Field. Looking pretty. Yeah.
Good old Mark Costa.
Yeah, look at that. I love that. That's cool, man. That brought back memories.
I was looking for a good overlay, and that was the first image that popped up, and I was like, that's too good to let go.
I will say, what threw me off though was this. So I almost had to go with Triple Play 2000, but what I've learned was the difference is with Triple Play 2000, they changed up the way that the pads were being used. So what happened is if you wanted to hit a home run or if you wanted to try for one, if you had a power guy, you would basically hold up the top corner of the D pad and then you would hit square for the power hit. And it would be basically a slicing motion to kind of cut upwards. And if you timed it right, you could knock it out the park too. Which for guys like Griffey, because of how his swing was and how it went so low and came up like that, or guys like, Ramirez with his former stance, Manny Ramirez before he got hurt, right? How he used to hit when he dug real deep, with his hamstrings and
Oh
all that.
yeah.
Man, listen, he was killing everything before he got hurt. After that, it wasn't the same. It just wasn't the same. But the thing is, though, um, those guys were meant for a game like that because if you timed it right, you was getting a home run every single time if you did it right. Now, when it came to Triple Play 99, the reason why I chose this is my number one is basically because of the roster. So for me, being an Indians fan growing up, you know, they had a code you could use during the actual inning. You didn't have to pause or nothing like that. And essentially it would last for like maybe two or three players, but you can get a home run off of those dudes. And if you did it right and timed it right, you pretty much could throw up like 40 points on somebody, 40 runs, and they wouldn't even know what the hell you was doing. So that was part of it.
This
But
dude,
during that
man.
game, this had the 98, 99 Indians, right? So you got to look at, okay, you had Mike Jackson, Dwight Gooden, Steve Carsey, Charles Nagy, Chad OJ. You had the Alomars, Manny Ramirez, Kenny Lofton was still around. And of course, Travis Fryman, a young Richie Sexton when he came in the league. Tommy was still there.
Richie.
Like that team was loaded, right? It's the year after the
And
World
didn't
Series.
do nothing in real life.
Didn't do nothing with it. It was very disappointing, right? So you
Heartbreaking.
figure to see those guys, man, on that game, which is really exciting for me. And that's the one thing that made me kind of go with that over 2000, because 2000 definitely had a lot more going on. But I felt like, with 99, it was just a matter of roster that did it for me between those. So, oh yeah, and to your point, yes, cheat codes all the way, man. You got to break the system. You got to figure out where the glitches is at too. I wasn't good at glitches though, but when it came to cheat codes, I was all up in there. You know what I'm saying? Button Master's dream.
Yeah. Clearly, because like on some real life homie stuff, if we're playing this as kids, your controller gets unplugged. No problem. I'm not even smooth about it. I just look at you while I unplug it. Like you're doing a lot, bro.
Now, I will say this
You
though
are
as a disclaimer. I only did cheat codes in games that I wasn't good at. I was not that great when it came to baseball games. You would never see me do a cheat code in Madden. You would never see me do a cheat code in the NBA game. But when it came to baseball or even the hockey games, there I say, I was putting some cheat codes in for sure.
I would give you that because it was the other way around for me because like when we get to the football episode, you're gonna hear so much.
I'm looking forward to that. I
I
can't
mean,
wait.
you've heard some of it already, but just off of GP, like it's gonna be bad. All right, Kenny, last man standing. Let's hear
All
your
right.
top four.
I'll start with my last one. That was Mario Superstar Baseball. I believe
Let me find it.
it's the game before yours, Mel. Um, it was the
And what's
prequel.
crazy, yeah, it was crazy because I don't even remember this one. But then again, I didn't play GameCube, so
This is the only one I had because I got a Wii late, so I had my GameCube for a while.
That's what's up, man. Respect,
So
man.
I used to play this game all day when I was a kid. All day. I mean, who had a Nintendo and didn't play Mario all the time, right? But
yeah, pretty much.
as a kid, obsessed with sports and obsessed with Mario, this was the best of both worlds for me, right? I played all those games from Super Strikers with soccer to the baseball. I know there was a tennis game. They made every sport fun. It was just it's Mario. It's always a good time. My next one is the Bigs. So this is probably the only series that 2K actually made a decent baseball game. Um, I remember playing the games for Xbox 360, and there's a reason why they don't make them anymore. There's a reason why they don't compete with the show. You used to do push-ups in the middle of the game, running the bases. But on the bigs, this was like your standard arcade type baseball game, right? So I know last episode we talked about like in the Midway games, right? The NFL streets and that stuff of the world. So the bigs is sort of on that in that realm of games, right? Where it's not really realistic, but you'd hit these monster home runs, and eventually, if you played well enough, you could get power ups. And if you had a power up with your like created player that they had like a my career, right? And this is like the first real my career I remember playing. Um, so if you got that power up with your created player, you just hit some 500-foot shot right off the scoreboard. And I just remember it was a bunch of fun. All the players were just huge, looked like they did a ton of roids. That was a fun game.
I'm
That
gonna
was a
have to
fun
look
game.
this up.
Yeah, that
I'm gonna
was
have
a
to
good
look
one
this
for
up.
sure. You got to time your pitching. Your pitchers would throw like 120 miles an hour. It was a lot of fun. That was a good game.
Y'all killing me. Y'all
Um,
killing me with these glitches and codes and
Oh
power
yeah,
ups.
man.
all right, so my next one was MLB Slugfest, and I'll pay homage to how they actually say it. 2004 wasn't 2004. It's 2004. So, first of all, I'd like to say Jim Edmonds was probably my favorite player ever growing up. So him being on the cover was automatic for me. Like, this is the game I'm buying. This is the game I'm playing. Um, so this one actually is Midway. This is a Midway baseball game. So with Midway, you get some of the not so realistic stuff and some more fighting, right? So in Slugfest, you'd have like burning bats or you'd have fire coming out of your cleats or something, right? And you'd be all heated up. And
Also,
if you hit
also
a
they was
double,
doing it. They was doing it like this.
if you hit a double, you could hit this. I think it was the B button on GameCube, um, and you just throw a punch. And if you held it, you could throw a kick, right? Like so,
Wow.
if the second baseman had a ball, you just start beating him. You just start beating him, beating him, beating him. Eventually, he falls down and drops the ball, and you can run the third. I I had so much fun with that as a 5,
That's so
6, 7 year old kid. You don't even know. That was I'll
I
still play
believe it.
it.
It
That
oh
game was
reminds
man.
me. I believe it because it reminds me of this.
absolutely, absolutely.
Do you
That game is
Man.
great.
you see the slobber just like
Right.
that pitcher don't even know if bad is about to happen until it hit him. Literally.
Mm, that's funny.
All right.
So my last
That's
one
hilarious.
is MVP Baseball 2005. Um, to this day, I believe that this is still the single best sports video game I've ever played. This is number one. I don't think any baseball games ever matched it in terms of realism. Uh, I always hate to go back and play it because it just makes me upset that they never continued the franchise. Uh, they actually, I believe that was the last MLB one they made because they lost the licensing. So then EA decided to transition it to NCAA baseball. It was MVP NCAA baseball 2006, right? And they did that for a couple of years until that ended. But in terms of just a realistic baseball game, this is still number one. The timing from the hitting is better. Still the same stuff that you mentioned, Ronnie, with the how you could aim the stick up and hit. It had this works the way it's supposed to. It's aim the stick up and hit the fly ball. Aim it down and hit the ground ball. Right? There was just nothing that's beat that. They had a franchise mode that was amazing. You could play for like 50 years or something, and it was. I think to this day, people still think that that's the most in-depth franchise mode maybe ever. They had mini games that I used to play religiously. I know they had a hitting one where they just had a bunch of like obstacles all over the place and targets. If you hit the targets, you get a bunch of points, and you could level up and do all sorts of stuff with that. That was the best game I think I've ever had. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, that's definitely a recommendation. That's the best baseball.
I'm definitely gonna check some of these out, man. Because every time I turn around, it's a cheat code. You could beat up people with the ball, and all I got was knocking the pitcher out. Like I, but don't get me wrong. I still feel like that is a great aspect to include into a baseball game because you don't see that very often.
It makes it more
Like
fun.
with like with blitz, with NFL blitz, you get to jump on people after every play. Uh, NBA jam, you shove people, but this one you hit a batter and they show the batter charging the mound it and I've actually played a season in Baseball Stars too, and I would be going up against their best pitchers. And the minute one of my batters got hit, they were dropping the guys. And these guys weren't coming back. You see a brand new pitcher. And I would just be like, we needed that because it would happen at the right time. And you know what? I'm going to look some of these up, especially Slugfest. This would, you gave me some things to look at. So
yeah,
that's great.
That's a good one for sure.
Oh, man. Nostalgia. Don't you just love it?
Just love it, man.
All right. That will probably more than likely wrap up our episode of 4th and 15. Kenny, we'd like to thank you for being on again. As always, you're always welcome back. Uh, for those that are going to be watching, don't forget to watch the Super Bowl because we will be covering that probably mid Super Bowl as it's going on. Still working on some good things. As if I'm not mistaken, Ronnie, don't we have an Instagram now? Thanks to you.
Yes, we do. So we do have an Instagram that's still 4th&15. On there, there's some more content that'll be loaded up with that, and then also we're going to end up posting the links on there to the different episodes too. So be on the lookout. Make sure that you do follow and get a chance to check us out on there as well. And more to come.
Yeah. All right. That will be it for 4th and 15. I'm Mel. That's Smooth. That's Kenny. Peace.